And as you heard just a few moments ago, I just got to speak with Dr. Anthony Fauci as these mask mandates lift across the country about the confusion there, the latest on kids and COVID, and where we are in the fight against the pandemic. Here's more from that conversation. While we do have so many people unvaccinated, do you trust or do you trust that the system is to trust unvaccinated people to remain masked?
When you go into an establishment that, since we don't have vaccine passports, you don't know who is vaccinated and who is not. And importantly, you don't know if there's an infected person who comes into your establishment, being a restaurant, a bar, or what have you, and you don't know whether that person might be infecting someone else in your own establishment. For that reason, there are many establishments who are now saying, okay, it's fine that the CDC says that vaccinated people don't have to wear a mask either outdoors or indoors, but if you want to come into my establishment, I still maintain you have to wear a mask, because I don't want to be responsible for the spread of infection in my establishment. And we're seeing that. I mean, people are doing that, and it's understandable why they are doing that.
Do you think we're at a point in our understanding of the virus that it's really okay for people to feel confident if they have been vaccinated that they are safe without a mask?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what you're really asking is, what is the data that made the CDC make that recommendation? And it really was, over the last few weeks, an accumulation of data that showed, first, efficacy. The vaccines are even more effective in the real world setting than they were in the clinical trial. As effective, if not better. Number two, what we're seeing is that it even works against several of the variants. So we were concerned about variants. And even if you do get infected when you're vaccinated, first of all, it is very likely going to be an asymptomatic infection. And we know that the level of virus in your nasopharynx, if you have a breakthrough infection, namely you're vaccinated, but you still get infected and without symptoms, it's extremely unlikely that you're going to transmit the infection to anyone else. Those three things, unlikely transmission, highly effective, covers the variants. That's the reason why that recommendation and that guideline was made.
And Dr. Fauci, what would you do without a mask? I know you've said that you're going on runs and such outside, but what about indoors?
No, I would feel comfortable being indoors without a mask. I've been fully vaccinated now for a few months. I haven't, only because of the nature of the fact that I'm working 18 hours a day. I don't have much chance to go and socialize in restaurants and bars, but I wouldn't hesitate to do something indoors without a mask.
Like grocery shop, go to a movie, you would be comfortable?
Yeah, I would.
Now that we have the Pfizer vaccine available to those who are 12 and up, since that's really a decision that a lot of parents are going to have to make about whether or not to get them vaccinated, what would you say to parents who are on the fence about that?
Well, I think that right now the data are very clear that kids, adolescents from 12 to 15 years old, the vaccine is highly, highly effective and really quite safe. We're going to very likely be able to vaccinate all of these kids before the fall term, which would be very good for high schools, because that's an area, because of the social interaction of kids at that age, that they tend to spread the infection rather easily.
Can kids play safely outside without their masks on?
You know, the CDC still has as their recommendation that if you have kids outside, if they're with their own family and they're not mixing groups, mixing families, that they could be outside without a mask. But once you get the mix of a lot of different groups of kids together, the CDC recommendation is still that kids should have masks on under those circumstances.
Why is that? What are the risks there? Is it kids getting COVID, or what is the concern?
The concern is kids getting infected from one another. For example, a child maybe in a family that is not vaccinated, and there's infection being spread in that family, comes outside, plays with a child from another family, another household, that could be spread. I mean, the CDC continues to reevaluate those recommendations, but currently that's where they are now with the recommendations.
What would be the threshold for that changing for kids playing outside? Would it be them getting vaccinated?
Well, certainly vaccination would solve it. if that were the case and they were vaccinated, there would be no need for any vaccinated person to wear a mask outdoors or indoors. But one of the things that could also contribute to that is if the level of infection in the community dramatically diminishes.
What do you think, Dr. Fauci, in 6 months, a year from now, do you think life will feel some sense of normal? I know we're getting there, but really, will it feel that way?
If we continue on the pathway of getting people vaccinated at the rate we're doing right now, I believe by the time we get into the summer, and certainly as we get into the fall and late fall, I believe we're going to approach a considerable degree of normality. It's not going to be perfectly normal, but it's going to be as close to normal. I think that would make people satisfied that they're feeling like things were the way they were before all this happened.
Are you personally optimistic about where you see the case numbers at right now?
Yeah, I never declare victory before we're there. I think that would be premature. But I'm feeling good about the way the numbers are going and the direction of the trend.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.